But I wanted to move on to a topic that I hope that you'll be willing to answer for me. Now, I was born in 1993, so I was fortunate enough to miss this brief time period. But as the '91 season was coming ahead, it became known that Bill Parcells was resigning. Bill Belichick was already off to Cleveland to try his hand at head coaching, and now the team is left in the hands of Ray Handley. So I know that it was a very troublesome period for the team, and I just wanted to see what your take was on it. Was Ray Handley, what could you make of him? Because there's not really a lot said about him today in hindsight, but what can you tell us about that time period?
Well, it was a weird time because, we as a football team, we just couldn't quite get on the same page with Ray. I recall, when Ray took the job, because we were familiar with Ray in the locker room, I recall being one of the first guys to go to Ray and just flat out lay it out to him. Listen, I got screwed last season. I start 10 ball games because Bill had it in for me. I played a second play of every game for the first game. And I didn't start for 10 games, and as it turns out, my consecutive start thing kind of gets ruined. For whatever reason it happened, it happened. Of course, I was pissed off, but I was upset about it because, my contract that I signed to go back to play had an incentive in it that would have provided me six figures of money. Had I had the consecutive starts I wanted to have as a player, which was consistent with what I had done in previous years. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to rewrite that wrong, still knowing that I had, Pro Bowl type talent and was a Pro Bowl caliber player on this football team and could exemplify it in my play each and every time I went out to play, regardless of what somebody else thought or whatever else was going on. And so I went to Ray Handley to say to him, Ray, listen, that's the player you're going to get. You're going to get the same Leonard Marshall he's going to come in shape. He's going to work his tail off in camp. He's going to make sure that he brings young guys along. At that time, we had a couple of young players, young defensive linemen. One of them was a kid by the name of Clint James that we drafted from LSU. Mm-hmm. And whatever player that I can help, to improve and stick around here to help you build this team to where you want to be, I'm going to do that. I'm going to give you, my best. That season in 1991, I had 11 and a half quarterback sacks, and I make my third Pro Bowl. And that in itself right there was, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to show to Ray Handley. Now, Ray Handley hires, the next season in 92, he hires another guy from New England by the name of Rod Russ to come in and become the defensive coordinator.
Rod Russ, yes.
That's the year that we had many of the problems that we had. As a matter of fact, that 91 season, I was MVP of our defense and MVP of our team. Mm. But in 92, when we hired Rod Russ, we just couldn't get on the same page with the man. The defensive scheme that he was looking to deploy wasn't working. The team was in disarray. The leadership on the team was in disarray. We had defensive plays coming into the huddle, being changed in the huddle by players. Players not wanting to play the scheme that was called, but play the scheme that we knew, and that we knew that could work against an offense that we were playing against. And it was just a bad situation. We had players fighting players. We had players fighting coaches. We had coaches talking back to one another. I mean, it just was a bad football season in 92. And something had to happen. And, it's tough when I look back on that. Did it take all that to make that team any better? I would hope not. But, it did what it did.
Yeah, and it was interesting that you brought up Rod Rust, who was the Giants' defensive coordinator during that time. And the only time like I can remember Rod Rust was when he was the head coach of the Patriots during that 1990 season, and they were absolutely terrible. It was a rudderless ship. I think they were like 1-15 that year. You guys made short work of them in that season finale. So for Rod Rust to come in with that kind of track record, I'm sure you guys weren't thrilled.
No, we weren't thrilled, but what could we do at that point? I mean, we had to play the hand that we were dealt. And that's just what it is. We had to play the hand we dealt. He was in a fiduciary position to make those decisions, to bring whoever he wanted in to the organization, and we were forced to have to deal with that. And that was the sad part about it, was we were forced to deal with that. I would have hoped that we wouldn't have had to deal with that, but it ended up being that.
Yeah, and it's always sad to have a team of that kind of talent just coming off a Super Bowl win. But was there any of that? I mean, I'm sure you guys understood, I guess, Bill Parcells' predicament that he wanted to step down for health reasons. I'm sure it had nothing to do with his stance in the front office or his relationship with anybody internally in the Giants organization. But were you guys a little bit upset? Like, you didn't care who was brought in? You didn't care if, Chuck Noll was brought in? Like, were you guys just disappointed that Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick left in the same offseason?
Yeah, we were disappointed. We were very disappointed.
Mm.
We thought that Belichick would have been the first guy to get the shot at the job.
Of course.
And it just didn't work out that way. It just did not work out that way. But we thought that he would definitely be the first guy to obtain a shot at the job. And I never was a guy for office politics or institutional politics, but I guess more or less what I'm saying is the Giants did what they felt they had to do.
Mm.
It's unfortunate that they got caught up in their own little game with that, because if they would have just left it alone and more or less give Bill Belichick the chance to make a decision whether or not he wanted to be part of that organization still or not, and coach in the shadow of Bill Parcells or not, that should have been their first priority.
Exactly.
The best unit on our team was our defense. I mean, if the best unit on your team is your defense, you would want to think that the Giants, being that they were known to be a historical great defensive football team, you would think that they would have said, okay, let's work on that side of the football. We could fix an offense, but our defense works. So if they can't score, they can't win. Let's hire this guy on defense, let him bring in a great offensive mind, and we got a chance to win.
Sure.
Instead, they went the other way, and it just didn't work itself out.
Right. And again, like with this 1991 offseason, it was already known that Bill Belichick was going to the Cleveland Browns to be the head coach there. But at that time, there were no rumors about Bill Parcells leaving. Bill Parcells would have stayed there for 20, 30 years if he wanted to. He would have been the Don Shula of the Giants, but it just so happened that it was a really, really bad set of circumstances where Bill Belichick finally leaves New York after so many years as the defensive coordinator, goes to the Browns with Art Modell to try to build a winner over there, and then it just so happens 2 or 3 months later, Bill Parcells resigns after the NFL draft. This was, I guess he resigned in May, and he already had done his draft. So it was just a really bad set of circumstances, and I'm sure that everyone would like to replay it again and keep people where they were and try to execute what you had just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, it was a cluster of garbage that just so happened to surround this organization and this football team that I felt, did not have to happen. And it happened, and, you kind of wish that you could rewrite that wrong, but it's too late to rewrite that.